What is going on, guys? My name is Family Shucks and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking with you guys about how I was able to pay off just over $30,000 in student loans in less than a year since graduation. It's something that I'm really proud of achieving in such a short time span, allowing me to further grow my savings and net worth in the years to come. Not only will I be talking about how I did it, but I'll break down each loan in detail from the amount to interest rate, loan type, and when I paid it off. And also I'll be sharing with you guys 2 techniques which you can take with you to help repay off your loans too. That way we can all be debt free. Just to give a little bit of background, I went to a private liberal arts college on the east coast of the United States where tuition started in the low to mid 60,000s my freshman year and rose to the high 60,000s, breaking 70,000s my senior year. I will start off by saying this: I was and still am in a very fortunate position where my parents were able to pay a majority of my tuition all throughout my 4 years and have allowed me to stay at home since graduation until I move out. But on top of that, I still managed to receive college grants from my school every year that covered around a third of the total yearly tuition. But despite all this, I still had to borrow a number of loans every year and was responsible for paying them off. So without further ado, let's go look at the breakdown. So here we are with the loan breakdown, and I went through the hassle of tracking down all my payments since college and put them in a nice pretty Excel spreadsheet in the order in which I paid them off. It is important to note that all these unsubsidized loans are broken up into 2 $1,000 increments, making it look like there are more loans than there are, but that's just how my loan provider presented them on the dashboard. So in actuality, they gave me $2,000 for the year, however dispersed me the loans at the beginning of each semester in $1,000 increments when they began to accrue interest. Before I get any deeper, I want to roughly explain the different type of loans you see on the screen. There are 2 general types: the Stafford and the Perkins loan, which is one right down here. Both of these are federal loans that you can qualify for based on your financial needs. The Stafford loan breaks down further into 2 types: unsubsidized and subsidized loans. The main point I want to get across here is that with unsubsidized loans, the interest begins accruing immediately once the loan is taken out. So for me, like on this first loan that I paid off a little bit into my freshman year, this $1,000 principal loan accrued interest at a 4.29 interest immediately once the school year started until the time I paid it off. On the other hand, subsidized loans, like this one right here, are at a fixed interest rate all throughout college. What this means is that the interest rate does not begin accruing interest until 6 months after you graduate from college. Therefore, this principal amount of $5,500 will stay that amount all 4 years and will begin accruing interest at 5.05% 6 months after you graduate. Now, the last type of loan that we have is the Perkins loan. It's basically the same principle as a subsidized Stafford loan, but interest begins accruing 9 months after graduation, not 6 months. So looking at the loan breakdown, you'll see that I pay off a few $1,000 loans every single year and consistently all throughout college. You can see I paid off 2 unsubsidized loans in 2016, my freshman year, a few more my sophomore year, only a couple my junior year, and then a majority of it my senior year. Now, for some reason I couldn't find the interest rates on these types of loans. It was just weird and really confusing, but I think nonetheless these loans would probably range around a 3.5% to low 4%, similar to these unsubsidized loans in the beginning as well. Now, the reason I was able to pay off a larger amount of loans my sophomore year and continuing was just because of the quality of internships that I have. So I was able to make more money, but on top of that, I was saving more money from gifts and holidays because honestly, as a college student, I didn't really spend a lot. My expenses overall were pretty low because I didn't really go shopping. I didn't really go out to eat that much besides just the food available on campus. So by keeping my expenses low, I was able to speed up and pay off more of these loans early on in my years. And then if you just look down here, I kind of broke down the amount of loans I was paying off every single year. So my freshman year, I paid off about $2,000. 2017, my sophomore year, $10,000. Junior year was back down to $2,000, and then my senior year I ramped it up a bit to $11,000. And this was the beginning of when I got a job. And one thing you'll notice throughout my timeline is that I focused a lot on paying off the unsubsidized loans first, generally because these were smaller amounts, so it made things a little bit more easier to take on and feel more accomplished that I was whittling away the total amount of loans I was owing. So by paying off $1,000 increments every single semester, it really made me feel like I was progressing towards being completely debt-free, essentially. And also another neat thing about paying off and focusing on the unsubsidized loans first is that I reduced the amount of interest that I was paying, because unsubsidized loans, like we said before, the interest rate accrues immediately once the loan is given to you. So by paying off these as soon as possible, I didn't pay any extra in terms of interest for these unsubsidized loans. So like I mentioned before, these loan amounts were given to me in $1,000 increments, and you can see the total amount of interest that I accrued from, like, say, these two loans was only about $28, which isn't too bad compared to if I left the unsubsidized loans for a longer time and didn't pay them off. Then that interest rate would begin to accrue more. And then on top of that, whenever I had some spare money laying around that I wasn't really using it for anything, I also put that into subsidized loans, because, you know, might as well, because these were also larger payments that I had due. So I figured if I had the spare money, I might as well pay them off at the same time. So you can see I have a bunch of all my loans right here, and these are coming directly straight from the pay stub, so there is not a dime that is missing from these. And you can see right here that it totals just over $30,000, which is a tremendous amount, especially for the amount of grant money that I was already receiving, and also from the bonus of having my parents being able to pay a large portion of my tuition for me. I still had to borrow $30,000 in loans, which is still crazy. Now I just wanted to point out that in my 4 years I paid off these specific amounts. So I paid off just over $15,000 throughout the 4 years, and this was before I graduated from college, which is crazy to think about, because that just means that these remaining 3 loans that I had left to pay off was just over $15,000 just from these 3 loans, which is still crazy. And fortunately, these were fixed interest loans, so I didn't have any interest accruing on them except for this one, and that's kind of like another story, because you know, regardless, I forgot about it. I didn't know I had it, or it slipped my mind, and essentially $42 of interest accrued on this, which was still a bummer, but I was able to pay it off as quickly as I could once I realized that I had this loan still left to pay. So that's a crazy thought to have, is that just these 3 large principal loans accounted for just over half of the total loan amount that I had to owe. Unfortunately, I was able to get these loans paid off really quickly because I started my job right after I graduated from college, which allowed me to save up more, and also adding the factor of living at home. So I was able to save up a lot more and kill these loans right off the bat. So after going through the loan breakdown, I just want to talk about, you know, how I did it. And that way you're still able to come out of college with a reduced amount of debt, or at least have the mindset to focus on repaying your debt as soon as possible. Now, the first thing that I did while in college was to get a job or an internship. So that's the first and most obvious one, and this can be done through work studies on campus, part-time jobs, or internships. For me, it was internships. Typically, these would pay around $5,000 or more for 3 months throughout the summer, which ultimately comes out to be like $16 to $18 per hour. And that's pretty good money for a young person like us. You just need to have a source of income in order for you to start paying off your loans. Now, a majority of students would work these odd jobs and internships throughout college, but I think the biggest factor that separated me and other people who are still struggling with their student loans is that I focused on paying off my loans now instead of later. So I'd say that's the second step you need to do, is to change your mindset to now instead of later. People my age will push off their loans until after they graduate, thinking that it's more an issue for later. But having that mindset can put you in a deeper hole, where if you aren't able to live at home with your parents, expenses like rent, food, car payments, etc. will just bog you down. And like most graduates, you're not coming out with 6-figure salaries. You're coming out with salaries ranging from $40,000 to $60,000, so reducing any type of expenses you have when you're on your own is a must, unless you want to be living paycheck to paycheck. So you want to change your mindset to now instead of later. That way you don't have to worry about it later down the line. Now, the third thing you need to do is to set up a plan. Since my freshman year, my mom would always tell me to pay off my unsubsidized loans at the end of every semester. She would say it so much that after my freshman year, it had already been ingrained into my head to focus on these unsubsidized loans, and whatever more I can do, no matter what. And knowing what you know now, you should know why she said that. Because the interest on those loans immediately starts and will begin to accumulate. So after you start earning money, set up a plan to pay off as much of your loans as you can. Focus on the unsubsidized loans to reduce the extra amount of money you'll have to pay towards interest, or maybe focus on the largest principal amount. Whatever you decide, stick with it all throughout college and your loans will slowly begin to chip away. Now the last thing I'd say is save and budget wisely. Simple enough. Don't be silly with your money. I'll make a video on this eventually, but use the 50-30-20 rule as a baseline for your budget. 50% for your take-home salary goes to priorities, 30% goes to miscellaneous, and 20% to your savings. You hopefully got a job during the year throughout the summer, so that new stream of income will be exciting. But don't go blowing it all on food, games, or experiences that are out of your budget. I'd recommend paying off your obligated debt or student loans off first, and then using that leftover money to do what you please. When you're in school, your expenses will be at its lowest unless you know you're able to move back home for a little bit after graduation. Take advantage of this and funnel that money towards your loans. I guarantee that your future self will thank you 5 to 10 years down the line. So whether you're still in college or graduated already, build a budget so that way you can not only enjoy life, but also save for your future and pay off your debt. To end things off, if I said wasn't enough, I want to talk about 2 debt payoff techniques you may or may not have heard about. These 2 techniques will help you focus and tackle on any debt you have in the future. The first one is called the Debt Snowball Method. Now this is where you arrange all the loans you owe and pay them off in order of its principal balance from smallest to largest, regardless of the interest rate. So for the Debt Snowball Method, you first want to list all the loans that you currently owe and put them in a nice spreadsheet like this, and then just tack a filter on it so that way it makes it easier for you to visualize. Now because we're sorting this from smallest principal to largest, you can simply go to the amount and then sort it from smallest to largest, and this is what it'd look like. You can see you have the smallest amount first that you want to focus on, all the way down to the largest amount. Now this will greatly help with the mental battle against debt repayment. You'll be able to cross off small loans early on and feel empowered that you're becoming debt-free, giving you the confidence to power through bigger loans down the road, slowly beginning to build up like a snowball. The second and last technique is called the Debt Avalanche Method, where instead of ordering your loans from smallest to largest based on its balance, you arrange them from highest to lowest based on interest rates, regardless of the balance amount. So for the Debt Avalanche Method, this is what it'd look like. Going back to your loan spreadsheet, you want to order your loans from largest to smallest. Now discounting the fact that I wasn't able to find the interest rates for these loans right here, pretend that this loan right here is the first loan that you owe, and you would focus on paying this one off first because it has a 5.05% interest rate. And then once you pay off this loan, you go to the next highest interest rate loan, and then continuing that all the way down until you pay off the lowest interest rate loan. Now mathematically this would make the most sense, as you'll be paying less interest if you can get them out of the way first, and this will save you some money in the long run, but might be a tough mental hurdle to overcome if your loan balances are very large. So for example, you're paying off these $1,000 increments, but all of a sudden you have to pay off this $5,500 balance and then a $4,500 balance, which can mentally slow you down a little bit. And these are big amounts to be paying off. And like I said before, it might affect you mentally because you're not seeing these loans get eliminated quickly like with the other smaller loans. So that's just something to keep in your mind. Honestly, in the end, do whatever fits your style the best. It doesn't really matter which method you choose, as long as you're disciplined and contribute regularly to your debt repayment plans. So in conclusion, that about wraps it up for today. Hopefully this video was insightful for you on how I personally eliminated $30,000 in student loans in less than a year of graduating college. I feel like no matter what situation you're in, the things I said in the video can still be applied to you to help you become debt-free. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.